Good morning, everyone. I'm Pat Jones, the Executive Director and CEO of IBTTA. I'm pleased to welcome you to today's webinar, Social Media. It's not just for kids anymore. We have over 90 people registered today. I'd like to recognize Rachel Bell with the Kansas Turnpike Authority, who is our Chief Meeting Organizer for all the webinars. Rachel, you've done a great job, and we appreciate all your effort. As we begin, I'd like to make a few announcements about upcoming IBTTA educational events that may be of interest to you. First, the Organization Management Workshop, Stories from the Front Lines, takes place June 23 to 25 in Baltimore. This conference is focusing on communications and government relations, so please share this with your colleagues and encourage them to register as soon as possible. Next is the Summit on All Electronic Toll Collection and Interoperability, July 21 through 23 in Denver. IBTTA's 81st Annual Meeting and Exhibition will take place September 22 through 25 in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. Registration is open and sponsor and exhibit opportunities are still available. And our last conference of the year, the International Technology Workshop, is October 27 through 29 in Normandy, France. You can register for any of our meetings online at www.ibtta.org/events. I also would like to recommend our most recent report, Superstorm Sandy, Adaptation and Resilience, which captures members' unique experience with severe weather events. This report serves as an important resource for you. For more information on our meetings, the webinar, and the Sandy report, please visit ibtta.org. Some individuals have asked about obtaining professional development hours for this webinar. While IBTTA is not able to give credits, we're happy to give you a certificate for attending, and it's up to each individual to submit it to obtain the credit. If you'd like to receive a certificate after this webinar, please email Kathleen Davis at kdavis@ibtta.org. Well, we're very pleased to have three highly regarded communications experts as our presenters today. They are Janice Fryatt from the Smarter Shift Content Marketing, Rachel Bell from the Kansas Turnpike Authority, and Tyler Milligan from Milligan Partners. Each presenter will speak for about 8 to 10 minutes. During the webinar, we encourage you to submit questions to our presenters via the Questions tab in the box. We will monitor these throughout the webinar, and Q&A will follow the presentations. And since this is on social media, we also encourage you to reach out to us via Twitter using the hashtag #TollRoads. That's the number sign in front of the words toll roads, all one word. If you have a question for a specific panelist or wish all panelists to address the question, please note that in your question. This webinar will last 1 hour. If we don't get to all the questions before the time is up, we'll post the responses to any unanswered questions on the website within 24 hours. You can find links to all of our past webinars at www.ibtta.org/webinars. We'll post the slides and audio portion of this webinar on our website by close of business today. Well, let me introduce our first speaker. Janice Fryatt serves as social media strategist for Smarter Shift Content Marketing. Janice is also a consultant to IBTTA, advising us and leading our social media efforts. Janice began her experience as co-owner and marketing director of Icon Presentations AV for events. Searching for new ways to connect with potential clients, she learned about using social media for marketing by clicking on shared links and conducting online searches. As a result, she developed a social media strategy she calls #EIR, or Engage, Inform, and Recommend, which she believes distills the most vital activities for effective social media marketing. Over the years, Janice has worked for different clients as an online community manager, Twitter chat moderator, social media educator, and content creator. In addition, she has seen significant website traffic gains, online interaction, and leads resulting from implementation of her EIR strategy. An avid industry and content marketing blogger, Janice provides consultation, coaching, and gives presentations on social media and content marketing. Janice, you have the floor, and please be sure to take yourself off mute.
Okay, thank you very much, and welcome everybody to the webinar today. There is a lot of information out there about social media, as I'm sure you know, how it's great for marketing, and it's important to get on it right now. But for a lot of people, the whole thing remains a mystery. Why should busy professionals add social media to their to-do lists? I mean, it's great for millennials and such, but I'm not interested in what my friends had for breakfast or what they're planting on Farmville. Well, you may have noticed that a lot more of your older friends are on social media these days. In fact, on Twitter, the 55 to 64 year age bracket is the fastest growing demographic with a 79% growth rate since 2012. The fastest growing demographic on Facebook's and Google Plus's networks are the 45 to 54 year age bracket at 46% and 56% growth respectively. Here are a few other recent statistics you should consider. Next slide, please. If Facebook were a country, it would be the world's third largest and 2 times the size of the U.S. population. Every second, 2 new members join LinkedIn. More members join LinkedIn per day than the entire enrollment of all the Ivy League schools. And 53% of people on Twitter recommend products in their tweets. These stats give you a clue as to why transportation agencies are now finding social media so useful for engaging with the public. But in case you still remain unconvinced as to the value of social media for you personally, have you thought about what social media can do for your career? Next slide, please. Social media platforms connect you to thousands of like-minded professionals and colleagues from all over the world. They give you never-before-seen access to the movers and shakers in your field. When you chat with, help, and promote others, you elicit reciprocal actions that can open doors you never knew existed. Next slide, please. Social media allows you to showcase your talents and point to things others have said about you. Your online LinkedIn profile, as well as articles you've shared that are written by others, provide a public view of you that can potentially reach millions. And if you write, every piece of content you create on your own blog or as a guest on outside blogs adds to your reputation as a thought leader and is likely to pop up when someone Googles your name. And this goes for YouTube and other forms of media as well that you create content on. Next slide. You can find answers to just about any question by asking it in social media groups. Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn are great places to find groups that are specifically talking about your industry. Not only is asking questions a great way to elicit engagement, but answering them allows you to help someone while displaying expertise that could land you a job or help to build a relationship that serves to support and promote you for years to come. Social media groups can become your online office water cooler full of friends who provide you with inspiration and encouragement when you need it most. And by the way, if you'd like to connect with IBTTA on social media, don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Twitter and join the Campaign for the Tolling Industry group on LinkedIn. As the community comes to see you as a valued contributor, the number of people helping to promote and sing your praises online grows, providing you with the most valuable commodity in social media marketing, third-party recommendations. But you have to get clear on which tools work best for which actions. For instance, Twitter allows you to directly interact with potential clients, customers, partners, and others whom you don't already know. Facebook allows you to share information with friends and interact with brands you love. And LinkedIn enables you to connect with colleagues you know while making new business connections via discussion groups and introductions from your current connections. Next slide. Committing to a social media strategy makes building beneficial connections much easier. The engage, inform, and recommend or retweet strategy means you just engage. You have in online conversations with people. Inform, meaning you should regularly post content or links to content that are useful to the people with whom you'd like to connect. And retweet or recommend, meaning sharing information while at the same time giving credit to the original source. Spreading your social media efforts among these three activities helps to ensure you are taking full advantage of the tools available. Next slide, please. Social media is not a miracle cure for stalled careers or faltering brands or businesses. In the end, these tools just supercharge the human ability to win friends and influence people. Wins are most likely to be seen when you commit to engaging on these platforms regularly. But when the rewards come, they can quite drastically change your life for the better. Thank you.
Hey, Janice, thank you very much. That was a great overview of the influence and pervasiveness of social media in society and business. Our next speaker is Rachel Bell. Rachel is the Communications Manager with the Kansas Turnpike Authority in Wichita, Kansas. Rachel fits in the middle of the Generation X and Y groups and displays strong traits and characteristics of both. For the past 13 years, an employment length record for a Gen Yer, she has been focusing her energy toward transportation-related internal and external communications at the KTA. Rachel is both a master and a student of social media and the way it's used to communicate round the clock for both personal and professional reasons. Rachel uses technology to find creative solutions in balancing her social media addiction, work, and family. Rachel, you have the floor, and please be sure to take yourself off mute.
Okay, thanks, Pat. Now, Janice walked us through why social media is important. I'm going to focus on how a toll authority or agency can best use these social media tools. To communicate about our organization, we use the written word, the spoken word, images, and that's either photos or videos, and relationships. And how we communicate hasn't changed, but the tools or platforms we communicate on and with have. They've moved online into social channels. Now, 5 of the most popular tools today are Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and Pinterest. But as Janice mentioned, you have to understand which tools work for you. I'm going to quickly give you the pros and cons of each of these tools, as well as showing you examples of how they are used in transportation and tolling industries. Facebook is a social networking site. In 2013, this social media had 1.1 billion users. Because it has nearly no limit on amount or type of content, Facebook is great for relationship building and for developing those more meaningful conversations. But the downside to that is that if you don't want feedback, this probably isn't the tool for you. This is an example I pulled from the Golden Gate Bridge Facebook page, and this particular post had 189 likes, and that's just a user saying, hey, I like this. 75 shares and 11 comments. Twitter is termed a microblog because each post or tweet is limited to 140 characters. In 2013, there are 200 million active users tweeting approximately 400 million times a day. And some of the highlights of Twitter are that the format allows for real-time information, retweets, or when other people push out your information, help amplify your voice with no additional effort on your part. Now, the 140 character limit can be challenging for standalone messages, such as roadway reports, but it's just fine for teasers to website and photo and video links. Now, we've relied on Twitter heavily at the Kansas Turnpike for the past 4 years to communicate everything from roadway incidents, safety information, and marketing about our KTAG electronic toll collection program. And more information about how KTA uses Twitter was presented at the Kansas City Maintenance Meeting and can be found on IBTTA's website under past event presentations. Another interesting point about Twitter is that your profile remains your profile. No matter how you interact with other people, this is what it looks like. This is a look at IBTTA's Twitter feed recently. So unlike the Golden Gate Bridge's Facebook page that I just showed you, a Twitter profile remains free of third-party comments. On a side note, I receive the majority of my news from Twitter, and most news organizations use it to push out content, so I just skim my Twitter feed for any important headlines. And for those of you who may be skeptics about this practice, I wanted to give you just a brief example of how it's worked for me. I saw on Twitter that Osama bin Laden had been killed, and I was able to get my TV turned on and tuned to CNN in time to see the anchor interrupt their newscast to report that they had unconfirmed reports that bin Laden had been killed and that the president would address the nation later that night. So that's an example of how Twitter is real-time information. YouTube. YouTube is a video sharing website, and it has several benefits. But the best reason to share your videos externally are to free up space on your web server and to extend your organization's digital presence, which helps with search engine optimization of your website. An interesting fact about YouTube for IBTTA's members is that 70% of YouTube traffic is outside the U.S. Heidi Weinstein will be presenting next week at IBTTA's Organizational Management Workshop about how E470 uses YouTube to engage customers in the Denver, Colorado area. Instagram is an up-and-comer in the social media arena. It was the fastest growing social tool until Vine arrived, but many are hesitant to give that status up to Vine just yet because the video sharing tool is so new. So we all know that a photo is worth 1,000 words, and with 100 million users, that message is carried even further. One downfall of this tool is that it is mostly used with mobile devices, and that's something that's not as easy for most businesses and organizations. Now, organizations like Orange County Transportation Authority are using Instagram to connect system users. By posting photos on Instagram showing how the customers use the transit system, those customers are teaching others how to more effectively commute, use mass transit, or bike to work. Pinterest. Now you may notice the question mark after the visual bookmarker, and that's because Pinterest has been called a photo sharing site, a content sharing site, a visual bookmarker, and a social bookmarking site. Pinterest allows users to easily and visually showcase the best of the organization. An interesting fact about Pinterest users is that they are the doers of the social media world. They follow links and purchase more than any other social media tool user. A month ago, I would not have included Pinterest in this presentation. However, if you're already on social media, you've probably heard or seen people posting what's called selfies, or photos that they take of themselves. To celebrate the 20th anniversary of the annual Click It or Ticket safety campaign in late May, North Carolina DOT jumped on the selfie bandwagon. They asked social media users to post a photo of themselves buckled up and tag it with safety selfie. And that's hashtag safety selfie. Then North Carolina DOT fed those photos into a Pinterest board. And as you can see, we were so excited here at the Kansas Turnpike that we even contributed to the campaign. I hope what we are presenting today intrigues you enough to consider promoting your organization using whatever social media tools best fit your needs.
Thank you, Rachel. Another great presentation on the importance of using social media for real-time information. And you mentioned search engine optimization, and I'm sure we'll have a chance in the Q&A to talk about what that means and how people can make it work for them. Well, our final speaker today is Tyler Milligan. Tyler is a managing partner at Milligan Partners in Dallas, Texas. Tyler provides consulting services specializing in toll systems and operations. His experience comes from an industry-leading toll authority, a Fortune 500 organization, and engineering news record top 10 firm. His expertise is derived from a diverse skill set in project development and the implementation of a range of toll roads, traditional cash to open road tolling and managed lanes. Tyler also has practical hands-on experience in integration of tolling on construction and engineering related projects for private and public sector agencies. Tyler, you have the floor, and please be sure to take yourself off mute.
Good morning. Thank you, Pat. Today I'll talk to you from the viewpoint of a small business and show you a few ways that you can quickly get engaged and further your company's online presence. Since the mid-2000s, we've been trying to determine how social media does and doesn't fit into our personal and professional lives. So as a business, you might ask yourself, what the heck does this social media thing mean for me? As someone said recently to me, I don't want to be on Twitter. I really don't care about what brand of paper towels Justin Bieber uses. Well, it's not really about how people waste their time on social media these days. Get in there and look around for the information that matters to you. When you walk into a museum, you don't complain about the section of art that doesn't interest you. You self-curate to find the area that interests you most. You walk on. If you love Egypt, you make sure you pass on through the modern art and head on to the Pharaoh section. Twitter's the same way. Now, where do I begin? So first, ask yourself as an end user, if I'm going to go online on Twitter, for example, ask yourself, what do you enjoy? What are some things that you spend your time with? What products do you consume? And then ask yourself as a professional, what discussions do you want to be a part of? And also ask yourself, how do you engage with your staff and teams? Believe it or not, you can actually use social media as an effective tool to communicate with people around you on a professional level. Just think about it. Twitter, as Rachel said, is only 140 characters. Think about your inbox and how some of the emails that you see can get pretty lengthy. It actually helps to be very concise if you're going to communicate to one of your team members and can only use 140 characters to do it. And next, you need to set goals of how you want to use social media. So for my own company, I set out a goal of informing others. I felt that our industry needed some additional information. For me, it was hard to find toll road-related news. And outside of IBTTA, it's hard to find engaging discussions about, IBTTA and toll road news find engaging discussions about relevant information. Within my various social media accounts, I work to push news stories out about tolling in the U.S. and abroad. And I found that other people are interested in the information that I push out and sometimes also retweet that information to their followers. One of the platforms I find interesting and I use on a regular basis is LinkedIn. Some of you may be familiar with LinkedIn, but I've actually heard recently many people say that they have an account on LinkedIn, but they really don't use it, nor do they know what it's used for. Now, LinkedIn generally is the go-to site for professional networking. Our business has a page on LinkedIn, and many other businesses in our industry do as well. But I see that they don't use that page to their needs or to value others around them. Just think about this. LinkedIn currently has 225 million users in 200 countries, and on average, any user that lands on LinkedIn spends 17 minutes on that site. If you can provide valuable content to people in your industry or that are looking to work for your company, that's a long time to spend on the internet, especially on a social media site. And for all the posts that I send out to social media sites, 33% of the links that are clicked come from stories that I put on LinkedIn. Now, for example, you see here this Rolodex. I actually use LinkedIn also as a professional Rolodex. There's times where people may change jobs and I don't get updates to their information about where they go. But I can go to LinkedIn, and generally I find that their pages are updated so I can reach out to them and find them quicker. For example, you can use LinkedIn to reconnect with folks. I contacted a Dallas peer of mine because I wanted an introduction to someone in Austin. And I was able to use that tool through LinkedIn to create that recommendation and begin a professional conversation. LinkedIn also has analytics that you can pay for. Through LinkedIn, I know that I had 61 page views of my profile in the past 2.5 months. I know a keyword leads to my page, and I also know that users listed under civil engineering are the top viewers of my profile. Additionally, there's something called LinkedIn groups. And if you haven't joined a LinkedIn group, I recommend that you go and dig around a little bit. So for example, currently there are 1.5 million LinkedIn groups that are listed. Now some of them don't have a lot of activity. But what's interesting is that right now, for example, if you look at the screen, up at the top I typed in transportation. It yielded 3,000 groups that have transportation in the title. And if you look at this first item, even though it's misspelled, LinkedIn Transportation Professionals, there are 50,000 members. Now I'm part of, currently I think I'm in 12 groups on LinkedIn, and generally there may be about up to 150 members. One of them actually is the IBTTA's Campaign for the Towing Industry group, and there's another that is the VMT, or Vehicle Miles Traveled working group. And I find in there that people post interesting stories, have interesting discussions, and I've even engaged with folks from India about a couple topics that I found interesting. And believe it or not, I've actually used LinkedIn recently for hiring. For a very competitive price, we were able to post a job listing on LinkedIn to a very specific set of groups and a very specific set of skill set. We also posted in parallel with Monster.com. From LinkedIn, we received 266 views to our posted job, and we had 45 resumes come in from that job posting. And from our perspective as a small business, that's significant. That's very little effort for a very high yield. And the interface on LinkedIn is also very useful. Now here I want to speak about Twitter. As we've said Twitter over and over again, to me Twitter is the main application, or the main platform that I use to push my information out. And I want to touch on, even though we've heard a few stats, I want to touch on a few interesting stats about Twitter real quick. There's 190 million unique visitors every month. Think about that. That's an equivalent of a third of the entire U.S. that visits Twitter every month. Also note that 68% of users use their mobile device. That means they're on the go, or sitting at their desk at work because their company blocks Twitter on their network. Think about that a little bit. If your employees or team members are using social media, find ways that you can make that useful and interactive for your business purposes. Now here's a screenshot of our Twitter stream, like earlier that Rachel showed as well. On the right you have my tweets. Now these are the people, excuse me, not my tweets, but tweets of people that I follow. If you'll notice at the top you've got MarketWatch. That's their official Twitter profile, as well as Politico's Twitter profile and Washington Post as well, as you could work downwards. I use this, and I've chosen people to follow that I specifically want to find information from. And then as you can see in the top left, I also have 247 people that follow me that may or may not find information that I push out interesting. And I scan Twitter on a daily basis to see if there's information that's interesting to read, or even if there's interesting information to retweet and push out to my network. Now, one item that I think is important, if you're getting started today on Twitter, say you create an account while you're listening to this webinar, and you say, you know, I don't know where to start. I don't want to spend an hour and a half finding people to follow. Well, you can surf over to my page, my profile, search Milligan Partners. If you'll notice, there's no E at the end. And I have lists that you can subscribe to. I've created 5 lists where I've sorted out different people that I follow into various sections of, for example, transportation societies and their staff, transportation companies and their staff. And you can follow a list all by itself, and instantly you get access to all those people's tweets. So it's a simple way to jump online, grab 20 to 25 people that you'll follow, and see where that information takes you. And make sure you click on those links and read the information they post, because sometimes it's original content, sometimes it's content that they're simply passing along that they find interesting. Now the key is to making the most out of it for business. You're going to spend your either personal time or non-billable time to make this work. Remember, make the most out of your efforts. Social media is just that, social. People will ignore you if you're self-serving. You need to make this an experience, just like in your personal life, where if you go and tell somebody about an interesting news story, you're telling them because you think it has value and you think it has value to them too. It has the same process. Be honest. And the key to, as a small business, and even if you're doing this from a personal level, social media is free, or relatively free, I should say. Because for me, I actually pay for a couple additional premium services that allow me to reach out and have a little more information about the information I push. For example, a simple tweet can be retweeted and hit thousands of people in minutes, and that costs me nothing. Now, a key item about social media is that it can offer you access to others and vice versa. It's not taboo in the social media world to reach out to someone that you might never ever call within your professional world, or you may require a couple connections to get to that person. So for example, I might feel uncomfortable emailing Pat Jones about a news story that I saw that might be interesting, but on Twitter it's perfectly acceptable for me to send him a tweet. In the recent past, I engaged with Robert Fuentes on Twitter. He posted an interesting report from the Metropolitan Washington Airports Authority. It came out before it was posted online. I went to the website, I couldn't find it, I responded to him, and he sent me a direct link to the file. That's something that normally in my professional world I wouldn't have full access to at all. And finally, our industry. I think it's key in regards to social media that as I hear more and more about how the public and our local lawmakers, as they make decisions that will influence the future of our infrastructure, that we need to get out there and get engaged. We need to engage the lawmakers, our employees, the general public, and help them understand our funding plight and help them understand that tolling is a reasonable alternative for raising money for future infrastructure. And finally, I wanted to thank you for your time. Spend some time, spend a few minutes creating an account and get out there and get engaged. Follow a few people, ask questions, come see us next week at the Operations, the OMW Baltimore IBTTA event. We've got a session there as well. Or go find me online and hit me up if you have any questions, or Rachel and Janice as well. They're very helpful. Appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Tyler, thank you. That was an excellent presentation, and it had some very practical examples of how to use LinkedIn and groups and discussions. And I also liked your mention of how you pay for some premium services. It sort of reminds me of the toll industry. You know, we're providing a premium service and that people pay for. Well, now it's time for our questions and answers, and we have several questions in the queue here. Let's begin with number 1. How much time per day should a social media user expect to commit to these platforms, particularly if you are a small business or have a small social media marketing staff? Who wants to handle that?
I'll go ahead. I would really suggest it depends. When you first start, you're probably going to want to spend a little more time because it takes a while to investigate where your audience is, what they're talking about. So probably at the beginning, if you could spend a couple of hours a day for for a little while, that would be great. When you get it down to you know who you're trying to reach and how to reach them, then I really believe you can get away with half an hour to an hour a day on this. But again, you have to use some of the tools that are out there, for instance, scheduling tools like Hootsuite and such.
All right, thanks Janice. Rachel, Tyler, do you want to have anything to add?
Yes, I do. I
ahead,
think
Rachel.
Janice is right that you can do it in 30 minutes to an hour each day. I caution against scheduling for agency or authority usage because you never know when there's going to be a roadway incident or some sort of PR incident. So I would just a little word of caution there, but definitely 30 minutes to an hour, and it doesn't all have to be at the same time, and it fluctuates depending on how much interaction you have. There are days when no one talks to us on Twitter, and there's days when 30 people talk to us on Twitter. So it's a little bit hard to say, okay, today I'm going to spend 30 minutes on this.
And from my perspective, currently I'm not creating content. That's a goal that I'm going to work towards in the future, but as a small business, I obviously sometimes work as an accountant some days, I work as a recruiter other days, and for me it helps that the goal I've set for myself is to dedicate 30 minutes in the morning to scan my Twitter feed. And LinkedIn, I actually you can receive daily digests from groups, or you can receive weekly digests depending on how your time allows. And so I'll peek into those emails to see if there's any interesting discussions available. And that helps me so that it's a quick and easy process. If I'm going to push content, then another thing that I have to take into account is if I'm getting behind on pushing content, I just have to accept the fact that some days I may not be able to make that work within my day. But 30 minutes usually is a reasonable time period where you can view what information is out there on your feed, and then also if you're going to push content, spend a few minutes looking at websites, writing a tweet. Because also the interesting part as a Twitter user is you have to learn how to compile your thoughts into 140 characters. And if you have a link within that tweet, you even have less than 140 characters, and that's critical. So it takes a little time to practice and get comfortable.
Thanks, Tyler. We have our first question by way of Twitter. This one is for Rachel. And the question is, does Kansas Turnpike Authority consider distracted driving risk when deciding how to use Twitter? There's a good question. What do you say, Rachel?
We do. What we have always talked about is this is not something that we want our customers to to do obviously on the road, but you can't make all the decisions for them. People are going to continue to make bad decisions, and we can't control everything that they do, but we can try to help them understand what's going on the roadway so that they can make better travel decisions before they get on the road, or if they're stopped on the road due to an accident, so we want to get the information to them so that they don't call into our emergency center and distract those people from doing their primary job of getting the emergency crews to the scene.
Excellent. Thanks, Rachel. We have another question. What is the name of the IBTTA LinkedIn group, and can you tell us about the kinds of posts that they make? Janice, I'm going to direct that to you.
Okay. Our group is called the Campaign for the Tolling Industry, and we post and encourage posts from all of the members of the group on anything related to tolling and the advocacy of tolling.
And Janice, this is a closed group. Can you tell us a little bit about the difference between a closed and an open group and how that works?
Well, a closed group just means basically that you have to be approved by the moderator of the group before you can get in there and start posting. So an open group just kind of allows anybody to come on in and doesn't require that.
Okay, thank you very much. Next question. I was curious to know of the methods and services available to measure success of social media. For instance, analytics, listening. I'd like to know of the tools available to quantify the success of a social media campaign while adjusting the messages accordingly. Who's going to start on that one? Janice?
Okay. Well, there's a lot of tools out there. I would suggest the first thing is, what does success really look like to you? Okay. I mean, you can easily look at how many new followers you've got on Twitter or how many likes you're getting on Facebook. You can find that, you can get those analytics on those platforms. Facebook has a great one, and Twitter, you can use Hootsuite for that to find out how many people are clicking on your links. But the bottom line is, even if that's happening, how is that helping you? What is it doing for you? So first, you really need to be very clear on what success looks like to you on social media. For many people, it will just be a matter of more traffic to your website. For others, it will be how much of that traffic is turning into people that are actually engaged with us, and maybe regularly joining a group that we have or whatever. But there are a lot of tools. I mean, again, you would just have to Google them. Google it, I would highly recommend. You have a question about anything, ask it on Google, and you will find a myriad of answers. Do you think that answers the question adequately?
It sounds like a good answer to me. I'm going to ask Rachel and Tyler if you have anything to add.
Yeah, I think there's a variety of tools out there to measure what you're doing on social media. Some are paid, some are unpaid. We really only use the unpaid tools, mostly because our two criteria really are service. We want to get the information out there to our customers so that they can make the best decisions possible. And then we look at engagement. And so far, we haven't needed any additional tools to, measure those two goals.
For my purposes, as Janice mentioned, I use something called Hootsuite, H-O-O-T-S-U-I-T-E. I'll get a little more in detail with Hootsuite next week at the session. But you can download and use Hootsuite for free, so you can get comfortable with its capabilities. What it does is it not only allows you to engage multiple types of social media at once, so I can see my Twitter streams, my Google Plus page. I can even see my WordPress website, our actual homepage for our company. And so whenever I whenever I land on a web page that I think is interesting to other people, Hootsuite will create a unique shortened link that when I put it in my post, and that post may go to Twitter, Google+, even my web page or LinkedIn, I can see how many people click through that link through the analytics that are built into Hootsuite. I can also use the analytics that we pay for Google Analytics for our website, and we can correlate depending on who we reach out to personally, either on the phone or at a conference. Say, for example, if I get a business card and I see that person is located in Portland, Oregon, and then I see maybe a few click-throughs from Oregon, and I also see some traffic through my website from Oregon. Those timelines, it allows me to connect those timelines and help understand if I was able to effectively connect to that person. And as a small business, I'm trying to, educate other people, because I need the whole idea of why I started this was to find new ways to find information. But also as a small business owner, I want to try to get my name out there, and by seeing those click-throughs, I'm also able to focus on what topics and what news organizations, what content creators are interesting to people. So, for example, I may get more click-throughs from the Washington Post or Politico stories, or if I retweet Politico, if I see that those have more value, then I'll spend a little more time focusing on the content that they create and pass that out to my followers. Because in the end, like I said, I got started to try to educate myself and educate others, and that's my goal, and hopefully along the lines it'll have some influence into my business as well.
Very good. Thanks, Tyler. A very comprehensive response and lots of good examples there. I just want to remind folks we've got 15 minutes left in the in this webinar. We're still accepting questions. I want to remind people that the Organization Management Workshop, which is coming up beginning on Sunday in Baltimore, Sunday, June 23rd, and for those who may be attending the conference planning meeting this coming Friday and Saturday, I want to let people know that at 11 a.m. on Saturday, there's going to be a special little workshop, a hands-on training session on Twitter and other social media training, and Janice Fryatt will be facilitating that little training session. So Saturday at 11 in Baltimore. Well, we're up to our next question. This is for Rachel and Janice. What do you think about the concept that social media is no longer an option, but a requirement to engage on in today's business? Is this true, not true? Do you think agencies not engaged are falling behind? And if so, how? A very layered question there, but I know you guys can handle it. What do you say?
Janice, do you want to go first, or do you want me to?
I can go from the perspective of in general in business, and you can take it more from a transportation agency aspect, which you have a lot of great examples to give, I know, Rachel. But yes, no, I do not believe that it is an option. Bottom line is that the generations that are coming up, the millennials in particular, that's just how they communicate. They don't do emails. They really are they don't really access even traditional broadcast channels. They're very much online. So if you want to communicate with the next generation, you really need to be on social media. Rachel?
Yeah, and I would add to that I think it's our customers' expectation today that they be able to get an answer quickly, and that they be able to talk directly to us instead of, leaving us a voicemail or sending an email to a blanket account where they don't know, they can't understand or tell where it's going. But also, I would rather respond in an open way, in a very transparent way, that hundreds of people could see my answer, rather than answering 100 emails that all ask the same question. So I think it has even a little bit more validity to it. It's not just about whether or not a business is falling behind in the eyes of their customers, but I find it to be more efficient, a more efficient use of my time.
Excellent responses. Thank you very much. I just also want to remind folks that IBTTA is now conducting a survey about social media. You can gain access to the survey by going to the homepage of IBTTA, www.ibtta.org, under the banner or the sign Attention Members. You can click on that and take the survey yourself. We've had over 200 responses. And in fact, Rachel Bell will be revealing some of the results of that survey at the Organization Management Workshop in Baltimore. Well, we have another question. Can you give us additional examples of using Instagram? Why would I post a photo on Instagram and not Pinterest? Who wants to handle that question? Why post on Instagram and not Pinterest?
I'll take that one, Pat. This is Rachel.
Thanks, Rachel.
And really what I would recommend is doing both. And that's, in fact, how the North Carolina DOT example that I showed, we posted the photo originally on Pinterest, but because we tagged it with the hashtag safety selfie, they pulled it through and put it onto Pinterest. And you can do a lot of that cross-platform posting quickly and easily, as Tyler was talking about with Hootsuite. And although you don't want to just kind of blanket coverage, your Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Pinterest, all of those things, you can definitely repurpose some of your content and post some of that content in the same way. So I would recommend doing both. One, you have all the users from Instagram that are going to see that photo, and then if you take the photo over and post it on Pinterest with a link back to Instagram, you're just really kind of doubling your viewership there.
Thanks, Rachel. Anybody else want to add to that? Okay, our next question. For Rachel, are you able to track how much traffic comes to the KTA website via social media? How has it been used to increase adoption of electronic toll collection?
We don't have stats currently that show how our KTAG rates have been affected. We do have a few stats on using social media to link back to the website, but our primary purpose of Twitter is to feed roadway incidents, and then we use it as a secondary purpose to post links to the website. When we were going through some budget cuts back in 2007 and 2008, we knew there was a chance that some of our service could be decreased, and so we were looking at ways to push more information, and at the same time we were looking at adding some DMS along the roadway. And so our primary purpose has been to talk directly to customers. Plus we live in a smaller media market, and we were looking to how we could communicate with reporters. Our very first inclination that we desperately needed to be on Twitter was we had the roadway closed due to some flooding, and we needed to contact some radio stations to get the word out immediately, but there was nobody at the radio stations in the middle of the night. And that's when we really took a look at social media, and we said, well, how do we reach them in the middle of the night? And the answer was Twitter. So I know that was kind of a long, involved answer to that question, but we don't tend to focus as much on how much we link back to our website.
All right, Rachel, thank you very much. I thought that was a very focused question, and appreciate the response. Here's another question from Twitter, and this one is actually directed to me. 6 months into your campaign for the tolling industry, is your social media strategy meeting your needs? Well, Janice, I may ask you for a little help on this, but I'm going to start by saying that our social media strategy includes LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and probably some other things. And one of the main objectives of our social media strategy is to build awareness about tolling, emphasize the fact that it is one of the tools in the funding toolbox in an age when there is a tremendous funding crisis for transportation. And my sense is that it is achieving that goal. It's feeding our goal of being able to access the mainstream media and place articles about tolling and transportation finance in much more prominent publications. So that would be my initial response. Social media obviously is only one component of the campaign, and there are many, many other components. Janice, would you like to add anything to that?
Well, the only thing that I would add would be when I first started on Twitter, Twitter is a really good indication of what the conversations what conversations are happening in the general public about this particular topic that you're interested in. So when I first started, there really wasn't a lot that I saw on tolling. There's a community building. I mean, I saw Tyler out there, and then the different tolling agencies talking about their specific issues, which are so important, just getting the word out about what's happening on the roadways. But actually just advocating for tolling, there wasn't a whole lot, and now I am seeing more and more. A community is building, and I would welcome everybody who's on this this webinar to join us. It's a great way to learn about what's happening, the latest things that are happening as far as tolling advocacy goes, to connect with other people that are helping to get the word out and actually may help you in other ways.
Thanks, Janice. Here's another question. What is your recommendation on responding to status posts or a status post that is negative and filled with misinformation? Wow, that's a great one. Who would like to start on that one?
I'll take it, Pat.
Thanks, Rachel.
And I would say that you could use that as a way to educate not only that person, but all of your followers. So I would just right there underneath it where anybody can find it, post that, the accurate information and thank them for engaging. If they have posted something on your, like for example, your Facebook page, at least they came to you, at least they found you and were able to do that rather than kind of, spewing misinformation other places where you don't have an opportunity to respond. But as far as removing things, I know some organizations do remove things, but that does, I believe, take away from the social aspect. So unless it contains, a lot of profanity or personal attacks, I would advise against just flat out removing it.
And I would add that when you respond in a positive way that gives useful information, that corrects the information that was presented, it puts you in a positive light. It's an opportunity for you. Every time somebody comments negatively like that, it's a great opportunity for you to display your own ethics and your own professionalism.
Thank you both. Here's one more question that talks about the perhaps liability that public agencies may face because of the way people use or respond to the information. The question says, it seems that we might be headed for some litigation once these next generation drivers start getting into accidents and blame the toll agency that distracted them. How do we protect ourselves and also provide valuable information? Well, keeping in mind that we don't have any attorneys among our panelists, at least I don't think we do. Does anybody want to respond to that?
Yeah, when we talked as a communications committee for IBTTA a couple years ago about best practices for social media, one of the things that we, suggested to address that concern is on all of the social media profiles, you can set up a little bio about your organization, and whether or not this protects you legally, of course I can't say, but I would recommend in that area posting, don't tweet and drive, don't text and drive, or some type of safety message there, and then regularly push that information out in different ways to try to combat that, because it's not just an issue for our messages, it's an issue for everybody's messages. So it's a safety message that we need to be pushing anyway, regardless of what we do on social media.
Thank you, Rachel, and thanks to Janice Fryatt and Tyler Milligan for your participation today as our presenters. I'd like to thank everybody in the audience who listened in and posed questions. We would ask you to check your email for a link to the post-webinar survey. And when you receive the survey, we ask you to please complete it so we can continue to improve our level of professionalism and the quality of these programs. We also encourage you to register for other upcoming IBTTA educational webinars at our website, ibtta.org/events. And I'll make one final reminder and pitch for our organization management workshop that begins this weekend in Baltimore. You can find information about that on our website. And all three of our presenters today, Janice, Rachel, and Tyler, will be on the program. There's a lot of information out there about social media and how it can be used to advance your business, both as a toll agency or concessionaire, or somebody who serves the toll industry. Well, thanks again, everybody, for joining us today. This is Pat Jones from IBTTA signing off. We look forward to seeing you at an upcoming IBTTA event. Thanks again.